decision, something what took me a lot of time to think about, and not something I just thought of and thought I'd do it. It's something I've sat down with my family and my wife a lot about. But I think when they're back in a few weeks and they're running hills and all the hype around the new team and you go into next season, I think it'll start to hit home them and then and when. I think I'm lucky because I've still got my testimonial going till March, so it sort of keeps me involved a lot still as well. So it's as if I'm just pulling away, and I think you'll look. I think in the near future you might see where I'm going to stay involved with Will FC as well and stay involved in the club. So it's at the minute I haven't hit home, but I think going into next year especially when it's Derby week and I'm no longer at the forefront of it, taking it to them on the field, and I'm having to be that fan in the stand. I think that's when it's going to really sink in for me.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of the lads say, don't they? Post retire, it's them big matches, isn't it? That you just that feeling, that excitement. I think I don't want to make you. I think it's tough to replicate, isn't it? I think nearly impossible, isn't it? Other than beating me in fantasy, there's not many things that put a smile on people's face. So
I said that to Bish actually at weekend. We was in London together. I was like, joking aside, fantasy gives you that bit of buzz. Nowhere near the buzz of winning a big game. Don't get me wrong, it's nothing like it, but it's something what goes a couple of percent to getting that feeling what you're gonna miss. So that's why I love doing fantasy so much, especially now I'm going to be retiring.
Plus, like you said, you can focus on it now, so there's no excuse for not winning titles now, is there, Tag?
You know it.
Yeah, so we'll get into it, lads. I think we're just past the quarter point in the season. What's the thought so far? Just give us a general overview, and we'll probably go through most of the teams and talk a lot about stuff. But how are you feeling with the season? What are your thoughts? Where you're at with the sport?
I think in general, it's been a bit of a. We've not seen a lot of points, have we? You know, I think it's defenses have been on top quite a bit. Whether that's offensive line issues for most teams, you know, injuries along the way, and I think we've got quite a big divide. I think there's two or three very good teams who are blitzing teams week in, week out, and then at the other end there's a you know a mixture of not very good teams and a little bit in the middle. So I think it's. I was going to say not competitive, but I think it's competitive. It's just not. I don't know. Not as entertaining, not as free flowing. I'd say it's a bit more gritty, a bit more for the purist at the minute. I think, but I'm loving watching. The Dolphins, Mike McDaniels, what he's got going on there is pretty outstanding. And so I think there's two or three teams that are blitzing people, as you can see from the standings. Really, the 49ers, your Bills to an extent, and your Dolphins. And then at the other end, the race for Caleb Williams goes on.
Welcome to Denver, Caleb. Come on down.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Bish. Like I said, I'm not disappointed because it's I think the defenses have now caught up with a lot of the rule changes that got implemented 2 or 3 years ago. I think there was a big change up, weren't they? And then I think for 2 or 3 years, we just saw a lot of records getting nearly broken. It was free flowing. It was all over. The ball was just getting slung around. And I think now the cornerbacks are catching up. They're getting used to these new rules. There's not as many penalties. I think 2 or 3 years ago, every game would have that many defensive penalties that you'd be sitting there with your head explosion. How's it going? But I think they've got used to it all now. The young crop are coming through on the defensive side. A lot of the stars in NFL are on the defensive side of the ball. We've got Sauce, we've got Witherspoon, we've got obviously all the tremendous linebackers and defensive ends out there. Nick Bosa, I could go on, but we've got so many, and I definitely think they've all caught up now. So hopefully, as the season gets on, the offenses catch up, and we get it on, and it gets a bit more lively and exciting.
Yeah, for me, I think if you go back quite a few years, the best teams have the big dog veteran quarterbacks. We've sort of feel like we've moved on. It's like a new era. We had like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Philip Rivers. It was like big battles, big games, big experience, Hall of Fame QBs going at it quite often. Whereas you skip forward to where we are now, and I think obviously some of your top teams have got young quarterbacks, and I feel like for me, I think you've got four teams. I think you've got four teams sort of leading the way, and one of them four are going to win it all. And I just, yeah, I mean, Bish mentions Miami. I've got them as one of my pretenders. Miami. I know their offense is really, really good, but they haven't played much defense lately in the fixtures. They played Bills and there was non-existence in that Bills game, that attack. And I feel like it's going to be, is it Miami play Eagles this weekend?
Yeah.
So I think if Miami put on a show this week, then I'll hold my hand up. But it's the second time this season they're going against a proper defense. If they get beat pretty easily again, I feel like, because I don't think Miami's defense is up to it at the minute. I think they're even Denver scored 20 against them. So, but no, I think there's a few at the top, and it's like a bit more of a team performance what they're having your star QBs at the minute.
Yeah. Let's dig into that then, Bish. What do you think Miami Pretenders are the real deal?
I think they're the real deal. I think, I spoke about them in our sort of pre sort of NFL that we did, the first show that we did. And for me, the biggest thing is injuries. Tyreek Hill makes the team because because you've got to defend so deep to stop him. It just opens up everything else underneath for the running backs. So for me, I think the key to that team is Tyreek Hill. I'd throw Tua in there as well. Obviously, if you lose your quarterback, you're struggling. But it's just this. We're seeing a lot of it now. It's just system. I know, your quarterback has to be serviceable. He still has to be decent, but it's just getting the ball into your receiver's hands as quick as possible and letting them do the rest. They're that quick. They just need a yard off the defender, get the ball in their hands, and it's all that yards after catch that makes the quarterback stats look good. But it's all the receivers that are doing it. I agree. The defense, that is a work in progress. I think Jalen Ramsey has just been activated off IR, so I think he's got a month, and he'll be back. But I think the test comes for them. It's all well and good doing it on your home field in the warmth. Come playoffs, unless they're that that home seed, unless they get that number one seed, they're going to have to go away somewhere, which is likely. Let's have a look. Who's up there with them? It's Buffalo. Not even the Bengals, Ravens, but it's gonna come against a team that is more than likely going to be cold weather, outdoor stadium. It's whether that all works in those scenarios for me, and I guess we'll find out down the road. I think they've still got the Chiefs to play as well, so yeah. But I think they're the real deal, but yeah, it's I think they've got still a bit to prove to a lot of people.
Tag, is the reason you don't believe them based on the game against Buffalo? Because obviously that were the nervous signs, wasn't it, against another elite defense? It was close, wasn't it? And obviously Buffalo got ahead of them. They didn't seem as explosive or as good. Is that the reason, or is what else are you going on?
Yeah, I just feel you've got 5 or 6 top teams in NFL. Like I said, 4 leading the way for me. I didn't even put Bills in that 4, and they're obviously up there. And I feel like I could be wrong. I don't feel like they've played many top teams at the minute. It's early in the year, so I can be proven wrong. I just think that game against the Bills shocked me. I was full in on the Dolphins, and then when I watched that game and then watched it back, the highlights again, and saw a bit on the NFL Network on it, I just didn't like what I saw in such a big game where they could make a statement in their division and sort of cement that number 1 seed really nice early on between them two, especially after obviously the Aaron Rodgers injuries and stuff like that. So Yeah, I think I'm based it on that game, and I think it's going to be a really good test for him this week to see if they come out firing this week and put it on the Eagles. Then, like I said, I'll hold my hand up. But until I see it in the big games, I'm just going to keep away from backing them too much at the minute.
Yeah. Who's the top 4 then, Tag? Who's your list that you've got? And let's go through them.
Yeah, my the top 4 for me leading the way at the minute is obviously the Chiefs. I think no brainer. Pat has shown last year that he don't really need many wide receivers. You can put anybody there and he'll find them. And he's still got his boy Travis there, and the defense is the real deal this year. I think that's what I've been most impressed by. Their defenses has looked really, really good. Then I've got the Eagles, obviously a bit of a no-brainer. I know they slipped up last week, but I think it's always going to kind of happen. And the Eagles, I know they're ones with the injury side of things. Obviously, Lane Johnson, I think he's picked up a bit of an injury. You pick up some injuries, but I think the Eagles have got that many threats. And they've just added Bish's boy, Julio, to that wide receiving group. I think that experience there, maybe another big time experienced veteran player might just get him over the line. The Niners, obviously, I think they're the 3 obvious. The 49ers, they keep fit. They're going to be at a Super Bowl or a championship game without a doubt for me if they stay fit. Your boy Purdy, really like him, Joe. I'm a believer like you. And then the 4th team I've got, and this is the one what you might not back into, but I'm all in on the Lions, mate. I'm all in on the Lions.
Wow.
Start of year, I was raving. Love Dan Campbell. Obviously, I got sucked in a bit last year with Hard Knocks with him, but I like what he brings and the energy he brings. Aiden Hutchinson, that pressure he's bringing on the outside is loving that, and I just love the weapons I've got. I know Montgomery's got a bit of an injury. I think Gibbs will come back soon and he'll pick up where he's left off. But yeah, I'm all in on the Lions. I think they're a top team, and they're gonna run quite close this year. Not make a Super Bowl, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the championship game.
Ooh.
2 issues there. I've got Tag. I've got the Eagles. I've got Eagles as a pretender. That's, I know, a big statement.
A big call.
I know. I'm not convinced at all. I think last year, this is more the eye test. I just don't think they've looked that good. It's not flowing as well. Hurts is good, but like you said, I'm not too convinced by him. The defense isn't quite as good. The offense isn't quite as good. And I think they need to be full out to have any chance. Just the way they play, everything about them, they need to be at it, and they need to be full on, because coming behind, they're not that big explosive team. I just don't see it. I think they could completely dominate and control games last year, and I don't think we're seeing that same dominance this year. I wasn't surprised that they lost. I know that's an easy statement to say in hindsight. Wasn't surprised that they lost, and I'll back myself up by saying I think in the next couple of weeks we'll see a couple more losses.
They've got a tough schedule as well coming up. Just looking at the fixtures, they've got obviously Miami this week, Washington. They've got Dallas, then they have a bye, and then straight after the bye, they've got Chiefs, Bills, 49ers, and then the Cowboys again. So I think, from sort of week 9 to week sort of 13, 14, I think we'll find out who the Eagles are. Because, that's it's a pretty daunting stretch, that, to be honest, for a team. Like you said, I think they changed the offensive coordinator, and it's just taking a little bit of time for Jalen to be sort of get what's needed, really, or for that offense to click. I don't think Jalen looks as dangerous running the ball, which I think hurts him a little bit in their running game, although Swift is doing pretty well. He's always good for that one brotherly shove touchdown a game, but AJ Brown's doing his thing. It's just, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Eagles trade for a cornerback at some point. They lost a few after that Super Bowl loss. and I just think they're a bit short. They need someone opposite Darius Slay, I think. So I won't be surprised if that happens. They just try and strengthen up a little bit because, Tag, you mentioned the Lions there. Obviously, there's the 49ers. It's a race for those top two seedings. So that I think that stretch will sort of determine whether they're a top 2 seed or they're outside that and they're playing in the wildcard round. But
Tag, you have to give us your thoughts. We've both rebutted that, yeah.
Yeah, no, like you said, I think the Eagles, the fixtures are tough, and they've mentioned that they had a real easy fixture list last year, and this year it's a lot tougher. I just think the Eagles have got that many weapons. I like the defense. I think the run defense is strong. Jalen Carter, I mean, he's looking some player who's getting written off by some in the draft, but his defensive tackle work and his run stopping game is just second to none. But yeah, they've got a lot to prove. I just think they've got a lot of experienced players there. They've got the best O-line in the league, arguably still. Jalen another year on, obviously. And they might just make the run at the right time this year rather than obviously getting to that Super Bowl and falling short. But I like the Eagles, and like you say, with the Lions, it's if you can get that seed in. I get that. But I like the Lions still. So, no, I understand what you're saying. And like I say, it's a bit like the Dolphins, maybe with the Eagles. I think we'll be able to make a bit more of an argument for both in a few weeks' time.
Like it. And then the Lions, are they the real deal? I think obviously on offense, they're freakishly good on offense, aren't they? They're doing unbelievable. Hard Knocks showed it last year. How fun was he? How good of a man is he? You'd get. My dad describes it. You jump over the trenches. As you go over them trenches, you're getting shot, but you do it because you're following that man in the front of the queue. And I think the way Dan coaches, the way he is as a bloke, he leads the way with his passion. And yeah, I think I don't know if they've got the quality yet on. I don't know if they've got the quality yet on defense, but I think they're all behind him, and that helps. And that squad morale's just absolutely massive. They're jumping over the fences for him. They care. I think they think this is the year that they can cause some major damage. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that, Tag. My next one.
Sorry, Joe. I'll just put in there as well. I think what's underrated about them as well is their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson.
Yeah,
some of the stuff he comes up with, I think he's been touted as a possible head coach, in the pretty near future. So I think he's what they do with Amon-Ra St. Brown. You've got Jameson Williams back now. It seems like one goes down, Amon-Ra goes down, Josh Reynolds pops up. David Montgomery goes down. You've got Craig Reynolds coming. You've got Jahmyr Gibbs there as well. So they've just got a plethora.
The Porter at tight end as well.
Yeah,
he's looking the next big thing, the next big tight end to the league.
Yeah, so they've surprised me. But again, from Hard Knocks, they're a fun team to back out. They're a fun team to get behind from what we've seen, and they're actually number one ranked against the run as well. So defensively, they're there or thereabouts. So yeah, it'll be a good one to follow them, see how they get on.
Yeah, I'm still with you, Bisto. I've got Miami in my top load of teams. I think they're the real deal, Tag. And I don't want to. We've already talked about them, haven't we? But I've got to reiterate it. Get your comments in. We've got more and more watchers now. Get your comments in because Tag thinks Miami are pretenders. I need a load of comments saying that's not true because we've got to get against him here. We've got to back the fun, man. The stats this year, they're just breaking every record. And I think there was a picture on Twitter that went viral. I might have to try find it now and see if I can post it up. Because the Twitter that I think most teams who are number one ranked offense, I think there's only been one or two that haven't gone very far in the playoffs. Whether you mean top Super Bowl contenders or playoffs, that may be thing, but you've got to say that I think they're going to get deep in the playoffs at least, Tag.
I think they're making the playoffs. I think, like I said, we need to see what happens the next few weeks. But I think as it stands, like Bish said, with the cold weather, but I think they play a top team in the playoffs. I think they're gone at the minute as it stands from what I've seen. But I hope I can be proven wrong because we speak about Dan Campbell. Mike McDaniels is such a likable guy, and I find myself every week watching his audible clips from the sideline, and he seems to obviously have the team behind him and they love him. And obviously Tyreek Hill, people like that. You want to see them do well, but no, let's see what happens the next few weeks. I think it's a massive game this week, Dolphins and the Eagles. Let's see what each team's about.
Lads, the first conversation topic, it's a negative one, but I'm going to get both of you. I've not told you this is coming, so this is spur of the moment stuff. We've got your biggest disappointment. Who are you disappointed with this year, lads? Obviously, there were a few exciting things. What a player, team, coach. Give us what you're disappointed in and what you were expecting from them.
I think I'll say my biggest disappointment is the Chargers. You know, it's been for a number. Well, I'd say probably last year and this year now going on. I think across the board on paper, I think they're stacked. You know, they've got a great team. They've got a great weapon. Like you said, they've got a very good quarterback. Injuries have been an issue for them, but I think more than anything, and we've talked about it on the betting show quite a bit, is just somehow they always find a way to lose. You know, whether it was, I think, week 2 against the Titans, I think they're massively better than the Titans in every department apart from the coaching, and I think that's what limits them. I think, if I'm honest, you know, I'm not one to get, you know, bang on or getting people sacked or nothing like that, but you know, I think they've got a small window, and I think they're missing out massively on that window. I just think they're underperforming massively, and it's a bit disappointing to see with a team with a quarterback that good.
Like I said, it's been how many years has it been now? I think from probably Herbert's rookie year, they've had an extremely good offense, and they just can't quite get it right. It's been the defensive side. It's been played. Was it 2 years ago that with the special teams that just kept letting them down? They just can't quite seem to put a full squad together and get into them playoffs, get deep into them playoffs. I'm with you, Bish. This was their year. Maybe a change has to come, but like you said, I don't want to be the one to get someone.
And I think it's just the manner of it as well. Like last year, they had a big lead against the Jags in the playoffs, and I think there were 20 plus points up at halftime, and somehow they find a way to, you know, to play negatively and lose that game. So it's just, I think that for me sums it up in terms of this sort of Brandon Staley sort of coach team. It's just they always seem to find a way to lose, and the stacked. So yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest shocks to me that Staley kept his job last year. I think he had more than enough chance, and some of his decisions didn't look great. I think it was tough last year for Herbert because I think when they look back, over 90% of offensive reps, he didn't have his 1 and 2 wide receiver. You had Keenan Allen injured, Mike Williams injured, and he was still keeping them in games and putting up points. But as you say, the defense seems to let them down. Obviously, they've got James there, they've got Mack there, they've got Bosa there. It's just surprising they're not doing as good as you'd think. Because obviously, I do back Herbert. I just think maybe new coach, and obviously Mike Williams injured again now. You'd like to think Keenan Allen can stay fit. If he goes down, then it's a bit of a battle again. So, and Austin Eckler, you've got a top running back there as well. So I think Staley has obviously a few more weeks to prove himself, but you could be seeing that as one of the big coaching changes in the off-season if you don't do anything this year. But rolling to my biggest disappointments, I'm with Bish including the Chargers. I'm just going the AFC West for me. The Chiefs they're just number one by a country mile. And I don't think there's another division in football what's so one-sided between the 4 teams. Yeah, just Chargers, you've said. My Denver Broncos, look, before last season, you're saying AFC West is the best division in football by a mile. That was what everyone was saying. You had obviously the Raiders with Carr, Russell Wilson going to Denver, Herbert and Mahomes. But Denver just hasn't done it. Obviously, we've got a new coach, but there's more problems than that. And the Raiders are doing the Raiders thing. So, yeah, it's the AFC West, a disappointment for me again.
Is that because the Chiefs are just that good? That what are they? What are their hopes? You know what I mean? In terms of winning that division, I don't think they're going to win. Obviously, the Chiefs are that good. I don't want to say they're giving up, but they're probably capped. I think it was the years when the Patriots were just dominating the NFL. I think it's sometimes tough for them teams below to really, you know what I mean? As player, I can't speak for players. I get you guys, you two can, but as a player, do you still have that same drive if you know there's always a team that whatever you do as a person, there'll be someone better than you in that division for the next year or two. I don't know if that psychology plays into it, but sometimes just feeling the vibe of a team, I just don't feel that any of them others really believe they can do it. I don't know, that might be a bit harsh, but I think with the Chiefs there, like I said, like with the Patriots, I'm going off that more an example. It's just the others just seem to never do as well as hoped.
Yeah, I think with the other threes, the tech wins off each other, which obviously doesn't help as well. But there's all now it's opened up to seven spaces. You've got to fight for that wild card spot. You make the playoffs, anything can happen in a one-off game. So obviously you've got to play the Chiefs twice a year, which might not go your way, but for the other 15 games, you've got every chance of sealing one of those wildcard spots. So yeah, it's tough. I don't know. Like the Raiders, obviously a coaching change. Josh McDaniels came in, sort of cleared people out, brought in his own people, brought in Jimmy Garoppolo. Signed. He was actually injured when he signed. He broke his foot, and now he's injured again. Denver with Russ, new coach coming in. And the Chargers are the Chargers. So yeah, it's a tough division, and I think the hope is, I think Tag will probably echo this as well. Is your hope is that Denver and Sean Payton can turn that around. I think pretty much everything's for sale at the minute. Try and stock as many draft picks as you can, and try and turn that around, and at least try and get behind, be that number 2 team in that division, on a sort of plan to obviously battle with the Chiefs. The others, I'm not really sure where they're going. As we said with the Chargers, if something's got to change there, and the Raiders are the Raiders. So yeah, I don't see. Although I do like what they've got. I do like Devontae Adams seems a bit a bit grumbly at the minute, but I do like Jacoby Myers, the wide receiver too. They've got a very good running back. But something's not clicked there for him because they were number one. They had the number 1 rusher last year with Josh Jacobs. This year, he didn't have a preseason because he held out a little bit. But the running game, whether that's the O line or what's changed there, it's just not quite the same. So yeah, it's a division pretty much dominated by the Chiefs, but it's who can take the next step and be that number 2 team. I think
a few of them have though, haven't they? I know the chart. But we've obviously Las Vegas. They've made some blockbuster trades in the last year or two, and it's not desperation, but I think they're trying to match the Chiefs toe for toe. And I think instead of naturally growing, they're trying to get there by forcing in these big moves, like the Devontae Adams move. Is what a wide receiver, but it's probably at the detriment of the rest of the team. The offensive line the last couple of years were unbelievable, and that's now gone away, like you said. And they've obviously drafted, the draft picks haven't been brilliant. Obviously, Raiders especially have been terrible. I think 1 or 2 of them are in prison. So no offense to them, but they never time to get it right. Obviously, Tag, your team, the Broncos.
Yeah,
it's the same point. I think other than the Chargers, I think the other 2 are desperately trying to get there and prove they can match the Chiefs and be as good as a franchise. And it's just not come organically. And I think NFL, obviously liking rugby league on a smaller state, when you've got that salary cap, when you've got them things in place, it's tough to not do it organically. It's tough to force it unless you've already got the things in place like the Rams did, where they've got 5 or 6 of the best players in the league. Let's just add it onto it. it's nearly impossible, and I think they're just forcing it too much. The Chargers probably are the opposite, not doing enough, probably just steadily going along, happy with what they're doing. I just think the other two have gone about it the wrong way. It's not the salary cap sports are so hard to do, and a lot of it has to come from the draft, has to come from good pickups over years of time, and they've just not done that, have they? I think they've boom rushed into it, and it's gone bad for both of them.
Yeah, well, on Denver, on my team, while we're on the topic out, yeah, we're just a complete rebuild. I think Peyton's gone in there, Sean Payton, and realised, obviously, don't get me wrong, I thought obviously the coach was a big problem last year in Hackett, and I still think he was, and I believe in Payton, but I think we're just a complete rebuild now. Obviously, the season's gone already. I think if you can offload a few, if you can offload Judy, don't look to have the right attitude, and there seems a bit of a culture issue there, and Payton's getting on top of that. I don't want to just flunk a season for the sake of it, but there's a couple of decent quarterbacks in the draft. I think Russell Wilson, is guaranteed money. More guaranteed money kicks in 2025. So I think you'll see Russ out the door this year or next year. I think he'll be gone at the first chance, and we're just a complete new rebuild. I've made a few notes on us, but yeah, I think we just need to flick what we can, rebuild, get a couple of draft picks, trade off what we can now. I do believe Sean Payton is the man. Won a Super Bowl. Seeing what it takes. Our offense was so bad last year, and it has improved this year under Payton. And our defense has gone from being so good to one of the worst in the NFL. I feel sorry for PS2, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the league by far for me, and he's like a diamond in the dirt because no one else is playing ball, and I'd happily offload any of them. And you look at that defense now is Justin Simmons, 1 year too long, Kareem Jackson, 1 year too long. We're re-signing even 1 more years, but are they past the best? And we've got a young defensive line kind of now. Obviously, Randy Gregory was our main guy to replace Von Miller, and he's been offloaded. So it's a big rebuild for Denver. I think it's going to be a tough watch these next 11 games what are left. It's going to be tough as a fan to watch, but I'm just going to think of the bigger picture and feel like in 2 to 3 years' time we'll be chasing the tails of Chiefs and can finally beat the Chiefs and end the longest winning active run of a QB in history against us.
Lads, on my disappointment, I've actually got an off-season move, and it's one where they retained a player, and it's Daniel Jones receiving a 4-year, £160 million extension through to 2026. Happy for him, happy for his family. Not happy for the New York Giants. I think that was one of the worst moves of this offseason. He's just not done it, has he? I think they backed him up. They backed him up. Last year, he did show a bit of promise. I think they had a much better team last year, and he's just getting exposed this year. I think teams have had time to plan against him, had time to really figure out what he does, all his deficiencies, and he's been figured out, lads. He's had enough years now for me. If it was any other quarterback, you'd be looking to move on. They've just given him that big contract. I don't know what you do. I don't know how they get out of this hole. I would say it's time for a rebuild. Saquon's getting that year older. Let him have a go at a championship on another team. Give him a trade. Get a load of picks. You're not able to trade Daniel Jones, though. That's the only issue. And I think that's just one of the worst moves of this offseason for me, lads. And that's my big disappointment.
I'm going to defend him a little bit. I'm just going to flip the other side, and I'd say, what can you do to help him? I think get him some O-line, because they're just like turnstiles. You know, I read a stat. It annoys me because I usually save him on my phone to use him, but he's took a ridiculous amount of punishment. You know, and if you look at his weapons, he's got a load of wide receiver 2-3s. He don't really have a dominant wide receiver. You know, they spent a lot of money on Kenny Golladay. He barely caught a ball. He barely got on the field. He's got Waller now. But yeah, so I think it's tough for him. You know, Barkley's been injured a lot as well. And the thing is with these quarterbacks, these average quarterbacks who keep getting re-signed and re-signed, I just think it's because there's not enough ones out there. Like they say, don't sign him, don't give him the money, find someone else. But who else are you going to find? Like that's the problem. There's no one else out there. So I think these quarterbacks, they demand this money because it's, you know, basic supply and demand. There's not enough quarterbacks to go around for these teams. So I think that's what I'd push back a little bit on that. But yeah, I agree with him. He needs to step up, but I think he needs some help around him to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, I'd kind of. I'm not a big fan of Daniel Jones, but like Bish says, I do agree that there just isn't much out there. If you look at the QB draft a year ago, and Ridder don't look too good. We saw Malik Willis in London come in when Tannehill got injured, and then what sums it up? You go to this QB draft what's just been, and I think Will Levis gets drafted 4th QB, pick 5 or 6, whatever it was, and he can't even get past Malik Willis. He's QB3 in Titans land, and Tannehill's not what he was. So, and that's the argument I had with Denver. Like, yeah, we don't trade for Russ and we keep our picks, and we'd have had earlier picks, but who are we taking? Because the last 2 drafts, there's just nothing much coming through other than the number 1 picks overall, like your T-Laws who are bankers, and you'll see that in Caleb Williams this year. So I do think the Giants, I think it's 50-50. I think there ain't much out there. I don't really like Jones, but I can see why they've done it. And look, Brian Daboll's just won Coach of the Year last year, and he's worked in Buffalo with Josh Allen, and you'd like to think it's sort of been a big call of his as well. Can you make Daniel Jones this quarterback? Do you see something in it? And he's obviously given the green light and seen it. So I think Big Bang and Tunes Bry got all the plaudits last year and got Coach of the Year, but you haven't seen much of that this year from him, in my opinion.
Yeah, our first comment in from Mal Bang. He's Brock Purdy's number 1 fan. He's actually one of my friends who I got the Purdy. He's the one he's the one who invented the Purdy chant. But he's asked, do you think he could perform outside of the 49ers, and reasons why you think he can't? Great question.
I was just about to say, Joe, I thought you were the Brock Purdy number 1 fan, but if he's your mate, that'll explain it.
Fan club. We're in the Brock Purdy fan club, and Mao outdoes me on the Brock Purdy. He rang me earlier on last year when Purdy first got his run, and he was going Purdy. So he's backed him from the start. So I've got to give him all the credit. But yeah, lads, do you think he can do it on another team?
Is he a Leeds United fan and a Niners fan because Niners owners are meant to be buying the Leeds United? Is that why he's Leeds United?
No, he's a Leeds United fan first. So I think the 49ers, I think it worked the other way, where now he's latched on to the 49ers as his team. Like I said, he's got a bit lucky that he's picked a good team to get going. But yeah.
Playing in red though, it's a bit of a surprise pick when they're playing red. But yeah, no, I believe Purdy could. I really do. And the reason for me saying that is I like the way he throws the ball. He doesn't seem to. I could be wrong because I didn't see much of their game at weekend, but I don't think he'd throw a pick. Did he throw a pick at weekend? I'm not sure if he did or not, but he seems to find tight windows for his wide receivers, and he looks to look after the ball for me. It's not very often you've seen Purdy turn the ball over, so for me, there are 2 big reasons why I think he would work in other teams.
I'm undecided. He's growing on me, but I'm undecided. We spoke about the Dolphins and what they do with Tua, and it's that Shanahan's system. He's got speed everywhere, and it sort of falls into place for him. I do agree. He's got a good arm on him. He's very accurate, which obviously helps. Could he do it elsewhere? I think somewhere that plays this similar system in terms of Dolphins, Rams, that sort of team. In a run-heavy team, I'm not so sure. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll never know, but I'm not sure.
I'm like you said, I think he's good for the reasons you give. Tag, I think he's safe. He did have his worst game of his probably career at the weekend, but he was still. I think he's brilliant, and I think a lot of teams would be happy to have him. He reminds me of. You know what I mean? He plays a safe game like CJ Stroud is coming into the league pretty safe, hits good passing lanes, doesn't turn it over much. I think that's what most teams are happy at looking for. As we spoke about, there's that many bad QBs that get a gig because it's such a tough position in the league. I think most teams would be happy to have him. Most teams could build a team around him because you're not going to get many daft plays. We can hit the wide receivers and the tight ends when they're open, and he does his job. Mouse put for me personally. I think Purdy has the mental game as well. Could definitely see him keeping composed in a Super Bowl. Hence, he's one of the captains of the team.
Yeah, well, we saw what happened last year, didn't we? If he didn't get injured, it could have been a very different game against the Eagles. And one thing I'd say as well, obviously, playing with a defense like he does, it makes it a lot easier as well. Like you said, he doesn't have to force those things, does he? So I guess that's the goal this year, isn't it? To get to the Super Bowl, playing those big playoff games and see how he handles it.
So Purdy, apart from Bish, we've all got a big thumbs up for Purdy Bish, so we're against you here. Next one, lads. Obviously, we're going from the biggest disappointment to the biggest. I can spell it. I spelled it wrong. I'll get it up. I'll get it up now.
Biggest surprise.
The biggest surprise, yeah. Can't spell it right. That's horrendous. My ADHD's kicking in. There we go. Biggest surprise, lads. What are we? Who's your biggest surprise of this year, and what are we thinking? Tag. Oh, I put a big. Yeah. Tag. Give us your thoughts.
Is this who's going to surprise us towards the end, or going to start surprising, or someone who shocked me up to date right now?
Up to date right now.
I'm going to say the Jets, and the reason I'm saying the Jets is because Rodgers goes down within 15 seconds, and you could have seen him sort of throw the towel in and have that excuse at the ready. They just turned over the Eagles at the weekend, which, as we know, Joe, you're not in on the Eagles as much, but I think that's a big win for the Jets. And I think for them to still be 3-3 in the race, that defense, and the offense still scoring points like they are doing, despite I really don't rate Zach Wilson, but they would have surprised me that they're still competing in all the games. They're still looking about it. And I think there could even be more of a surprise if towards the end of the year you see Rodgers lacing them back up or what he's doing with this Achilles injury at the minute. It could be one of the greatest comebacks you've ever seen in history of the game and in sport.
Yeah, I think that how crazy was that? The video of the game at the weekend when he were walking around. It's been 6-7 weeks now. It's if he comes back, wow, holding that, redoing the American flag in the playoffs. Well, it'd be crazy if they make the playoffs, but if they somehow pulled it off, come in with the flag and he's back, it would be the greatest story of all time. And he's giving it a chance, isn't he? He's giving the dreams are made of it. And I think if there's one man who can do it, the man who's pulled off so many surprises, so many amazing moments for the Green Bay Packers, I think he's got one for the Jets, and that could be he finishes the season strong and gets them in the playoffs. Would sport have seen anything like it? That'd be like Kobe hitting his 50 points with a Achilles, hitting them free throws game. Beyond that
Tiger
level,
Woods.
Yeah, it would be Tiger Woods level, wouldn't it? Tiger Woods 2019 Masters level. So yeah, that's exciting. I like it. Yeah, they're hanging in there, aren't they, Tag, to be fair to you? They're hanging in there. And they've got they're giving him a chance, aren't they? They're giving Rodgers a chance, which that has been said behind. He's saying, "I'll get there, lads. You just get me there.
Yeah,
let's have it." That's getting me excited.
It's amazing how quickly they come back from these Achilles. I think 2 seasons ago it was Cam Akers was similar, made it back in ridiculously short time to make the Super Bowl. So it's the medical advances over there are pretty remarkable, really. But for me, I think my biggest surprise, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're currently sitting 3-2, top of the division, and I just didn't think last year, Brady in there, they just didn't look very good, if I'm honest. Brady battled away, but Baker coming in, a lot of people are down on Baker. He'll always have a place in my heart for what he did for the Rams in Thursday Night Football when I went over to watch a game. He won it in the last minute against the Raiders. So I always have some love for him. But he's come in and he's got the weapons. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. He's 1,000-yard after 1,000-yard season. And but I just didn't expect it, if I'm honest. I didn't expect much from him. I thought they'd be, probably third in that division below, just above the Panthers. But they've come out swinging, and to be fair, they're quite fun to watch. They're running the ball quite well, and as I said, the weapons he's got. So for the first six weeks, or we're up to 7 now. Yes, for the first 6 weeks, I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, yeah. Baker's been awesome. And to be honest, it's not a big surprise to me. I'm playing Mr. Know-It-All here, but I've got loads wrong, so I can't. But this is one thing I think I said to you, Bish, didn't I, when I rang you pre-season? I think I said I'm not thinking this Tampa Bay team's as bad as everyone making out. They've got Mike Evans, who's been one of the best wide receivers in the league for literally 10 so years now, near enough. We've got Chris Godwin, who's a wide receiver too. On a lot of other teams would be the top wide receiver. And then the defense, Devin White's back. You know what I mean? I think people forget how injured their defensive side of the ball was last year. They're all backing at it now, and they had such a good defense. Obviously, Brady's year that they won. A lot of them are back. Obviously, a lot of people have left and gone, but I think I always had high hopes for him. I like Baker. Something about him just keeps me going. He's got a cult personality, and I think they've got the offensive weapons to back that up. It's not good him sat there on some of the teams he has in the past with the Browns with not really anyone. Don't you know what I mean? And don't give me OBJ, lads, because he doesn't do it for me anymore. He's not done it. You know what I mean? Other than that, you've got Jarvis Landry, who's now out of the league. It's that's been Baker's up. He's at it now. He's feeling himself. He's got his confidence up. And that defense were always good. They just had loads of injuries last year, and people wrote off them wide receivers. And they're showing I think they'll make the playoffs and do some damage. I think.
Yeah, I think, like I said, not necessarily the Bucs, but Baker, he's the surprise for me. I feel like he's turned a corner. I think obviously he didn't do it in the Browns, and there was quite a few times there was stuff coming out there that he wasn't a great teammate, and obviously he wasn't getting on with his teammates. But what you've seen Baker do this year is sort of lead from the front. He's running the ball more than I've ever seen him run the ball. He's getting aggressive. He's getting his head down. He's fighting for them extra yards when he carries it. He's not just skipping out of bounds. He's been a right leader in that team, which for me, like Bish says, has surprised me, because for me, he wasn't for me at all. Didn't buy into Baker, didn't like him, but I can hold my hand up and say he has really shocked me this year in that Bucs team, and the battle in that division, in a division where I thought Saints would win comfortably. Yeah, I can get behind the Bucs being a surprise.
And lads, lastly, my surprise, Bish, I'm stealing your team. It's got to be, for me, the LA Rams. Kind of like the Tampa Bay. I think a lot of people wrote the Rams off. They've got this young defense, or they're developing which quarterback they're going to get after Stafford. Screw all that. They've got Cooper Kupp back. They've somehow drafted phenomenally. Whoever does their drafting, Bish, you'll know more than me who's in that draft room, but that's surely one of the best drafts. Consistently nail the draft process for 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, however long Aaron Donald's been in the league now.
Normally trade the picks away.
And when they don't, they get them right, don't they? And they've done it from 4th rounders, 5th round. They've done it from late round picks. They've actually built a team on later round picks and flavoured a 1st or 2nd rounder on there. So it's they're my surprise. I'm happy for them. I think they deserve it. They've done it the way I mentioned earlier in a salary cap sport. They're built from within. Spent obviously loads of time getting them draft picks right that they do use, and then when they do trade, they make sure they get it right. I think they've rarely got them big blockbuster trades wrong. And yeah, I'm buzzing for the Rams, Bish. So good on you as a supporter. And I think we'll have some fun watching them, and it's always fun watching young rookies play well anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been good. And like you said, that scouting, Les Snead and what they're doing, that although, the motto is FM picks, we actually stack up later round picks. They do it pretty well, the conditional picks by trading players and I think maybe last draft or the draft before, we actually had the most picks in the draft out of any team, but they're just all late picks, and they do a really good job coming into this year. Obviously, we sold out, won the Super Bowl, and it as you spend on credit card, eventually you're going to have to pay it off eventually, and that's what we're doing really. So they pretty much sold the defense, just Aaron Donald there, tons of rookies. Got 75 million dead cap this year, and then we've got our 1st round pick, and we're ready to go again next year. But it's been a great year so far. The offense is ticking, like you said, and as long as we can keep Stafford healthy, I think the offense will be good. We've now started to find a running game, although Kyren Williams has picked up an injury that looks like he'll keep him out for a while. But obviously the big find is Puka Nacua. Another late round pick, and he did the job for Cup, filled in really well. And now I think he just complements him really well. He's a big guy, he's got some speed, and on the outside, when Cup gets all that attention, he can just get that one-on-one on the outside, and I think he'll jag plenty of touchdowns going forward.
I like it. Lads, we've got the new discussion topic. I'm chucking the next one on you, thick and fast. Who's if I can click your quarter season I've clicked it off. Sorry, lads, a bit unprofessional. Quarter season MVP. I'm chucking them at you. I'll give you no time to research, so I'm not gonna get on you if you get some stats wrong. But give me who your quarter season MVP is.
No, I'm happy to lead on this. I've said it'd be about time to see a non-QB MVP again. And for me, the best player in the league by far at the minute is CMC. He is my MVP at the minute. Obviously, hopefully he hasn't got a bad injury and he can still keep out there. That's his issue, is that he needs to stay fit. But obviously, I think he's just equaled the record for 15 touchdowns in a row in consecutive games. So I do think they will push to get him out there this week for that record as well, to have that record on his own. But yeah, if I'm calling me MVP so far, I'm going with Christian McCaffrey.
I'm gonna follow on the non-quarterback route, but I'm gonna go a slightly different way. I'm gonna go Tyreek Hill. I think I actually put it on the Punt social media, I think yesterday. Currently, after 6 weeks, he sits 186 yards shy of 1,000 yards. Wide receivers will be happy to get 1,000 yards over 17 games, and and he's just short in 6. That's 814 receiving yards from his first 6 games. So he's on pace to eclipse 2,300 receiving yards in a season, which is, it's ridiculous. Cooper Kupp, Triple Crown, did really well, but if it carries on, it's ridiculous what he's doing. 135 yards a game, 19 receptions a game. So it's in Cooper Cup season. Cooper Cup was at 114 yards a game and 13 receptions a game. So, he's 20 yards a game higher than that, 6 carries, 6 receptions higher than that. So it's whether it can continue. But for me, he is that offense. And as I said, he just opens so much up for everyone else. So, two non-quarterbacks, Joe. Who are you going to go with?
I'm going to go non-quarterback, lads. Let's have a go to 3 non-quarterbacks. He's leading his stats. He reminds me a bit of what Aaron Donald normally does. His stats haven't blown out, but he's the leader of the defense on the team that has allowed the least yards this season, lads. It's a controversial one, but I always go a bit controversial. I've got Myles Garrett. I think he's that Cleveland Brown defense. We've seen now how good we are. We've talked about them in the show that's coming out tomorrow. He's the leader of that team. Like I said, his stats haven't blown out, but on the pitch, on the eye test, he's doing everything. He's there every time. He's bothering every QB. Most plays, he's in and around the QB. Everything's getting put towards stopping Garrett from getting towards that QB. He's being disruptive force, and he's just consistently having great games. And so far, if he carries on, he'll be up there for me for what he's doing with that Cleveland Brown defense that I don't think has many other stars, quote unquote, on it. Great team, great defense, but he's leading that by example, and he's doing an unbelievable job there at Cleveland.
I like it. No QBs. It's about time.
It's great watching on social media. You see Myles Garrett doing the basketball crossover in between snaps. It's just, confidence is flowing in it at the minute.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable. And who would be your QB then if you had to give a QB? Traditionally, obviously, as we said, the league always picks a QB. It is the most important position in any sport. The QB. I don't think you can think of an other than tennis where you're the only player. I think it's the most important position. So we've probably all got to give a QB pick. Who's your QB of the season?
I think without going down the obvious route, I'll just throw Stroud in the mix. I'm throwing him in the mix because Texans massively written off, given no chance, and they're all on their own, and they've had some good wins, and Stroud looks. We speak about the real deals, but at the minute he's looking that pick from the draft, what everyone wished they would have obviously could have traded up for, and Bryce Young went first overall. I know he's work in progress, but he's obviously battling that height and he's finding it tough at the minute. But no, I think CJ Stroud's been a massive shock at how well he's hit the ground running and how good he's looked, and he has won the Texans games single-handedly at times this year. So I'm going to throw CJ in there for a bit of a mix-up.
But I'm with you. I was going to try be different and say CJ myself tagged, so I'll think of someone. I'll play the obvious one. I'll go Patrick Mahomes. Easy, obvious, year after year. Then wide receivers are just a load of no names, but he's given them a name. Rashee Rice and all of that. Like who would have? But he's given them reps for. And it's unbelievable. Obviously, he's still got Kelsey, his main man. Kelsey's getting older, and he's still just delivering it to Kelsey on a plate. He's unbelievable, isn't he? Every time I watch him, you just think what a freak. Just the way he does things. He comes up with stuff off the cuff. He's an off the cuff player. Reminds me of a rugby player. Rugby 6 or 7 that just off the cuff, bang, bang. But then he's also can play systematic too. He's a mix of a 6 and a 7. He can do everything. Yeah. He's just, he's brilliant. And I think that's the obvious pick for me.
Another obvious one for me, number one offense is Tua. He got a lot of stick. Well, since he come in the league, injury prone. He came in with a hip injury. Obviously the concussions, in and out with Fitzpatrick. and he's found that coach who loves him, who's made it all about him, and so for me, it's Tua.
I think we've found out tonight that Bish is a secret Miami Dolphins fan.
It's because I own half the team in Dynasty and I'm still undefeated. So
that's what
I'm
I
riding
mean.
them.
I'm just bitter. I'm bitter, but you're a Dolphins fan, admit
it.
I'm an AFC team.
All right, lads. Talking points. I think the last one I've got to ask you. Who is the team that you think on the opposite side needs to completely chuck it in? Obviously, we've talked about a few, haven't we? Mine is the Denver Broncos. Tag, I want to bring it up. You said you've made your notes. Let's go through your notes. Let's talk about Denver because last year they got absolutely destroyed. Nathaniel Hackett there. Let's get Hackett out. They brought their man in, and it's still not been right. Tag, let's get into it. What do you think? Sean Payton.
I think Payton he's doing it right though. I think he's been happy to come out and criticize Russ and say, do you know what I mean? Stop talking this and that. Let's worry about cracking on and getting wins. And I think Drew Brees has said it as well that he was treated the same as a rookie by Sean Payton all the time there. The 53-man squad is treated exactly the same, and there's no more special treatment for Russ and extra coaches coming in with him, or we aren't putting him with Randy Gregory going about business in not the right way. So I think you can't change the culture overnight. Don't matter whether you get the greatest coach out there in the world, you can't change it overnight, and you've got to go in there and you've got to start obviously seeing what's going on in there, putting structures in place, get into game time, and start seeing what players are about. And obviously, there's a big issue there in Denver. I think Hackett, what I do think is he could be a good coach, but I think it was that big of a problem in Denver to have a head coach go in there who was a rookie head coach. I think it was probably too big of a job for him. He's needed a ruthless winning mentality like Sean Payton to go in there and sort it. So, as I touched on before, for me, I think Russ needs offloading. I think he's been better this year, I think, because of Sean Payton. Our attack has got better, but I think it's a rebuild process. I think Russ, obviously, we aren't winning a Super Bowl in the next couple of years, and he gets his more guaranteed money in 2025. So if we hadn't offloaded him this year or next year, I'd be very shocked. I think we're 1-5. I don't want to tank a season on purpose, but Caleb Williams is sat there at 1 potentially, and there's 1 or 2 other quarterbacks around there as well. It's a nice little QB draft, this, and you could get one in there who can work around Russ maybe for a year. But yeah, I just think a full rebuild, get some picks in, trade the blokes who you know aren't the sort of people you want around the place. I think Jerry Jeudy's not. I was the biggest Jeudy fan ever. I loved him coming out of college. I was buzzing that Denver took him, but you've seen the comments on social media and sort of stuff he's saying and doing. It's just not looking good, and it's bringing attention to the team what you don't need. So, yeah, I think a full rebuild was going to take a couple of years and trust the process. Back Payton. The one thing we have got is a lot of money. We've got one of the richest owner group in the league, so hopefully that can help as well.
Yeah, would Caleb Williams go to Denver? Obviously, there's reports that he wants to do another year of college if he's not happy with the team tag. Obviously, I think if he is that good, if the team want to invest in him that much, he's going to have to see some movement in it. Like you said, there's going to be a lot of things going on. What's happened, Tag? My big issue, what's happened to that defense? It was so good last year. It kept them in games. It won them quite a lot of games. How have we seen them go from one of the best to literally the worst defense pretty much in the league?
Yeah, I think look, I was a big Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons fan, and they've been 2 of the biggest leaders on our defense for a lot of years. But you see it in all professional sports. I think with them 2, I think it's 1 year too much. I think they've obviously given both another year and knowing that they needed them maybe, and new coach coming in again. But I think them 2 have obviously underperformed, and PS2, love PS2, but other than that, I just think every team has like that them players who, or that one player. Look at Rams; they've still got Donald there around a pretty weak defense, but we ain't got that star. We put it in Randy Gregory, and we got warned about him from Cowboys, and some of my Cowboy fans mates told me about him that it ain't a good sign, and they're being proven right. He's not stayed fit, and he's obviously caused a bit of drama, and now he's been and gone to the Niners. So yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff gone into it. I think it's been a bit of a build up, not good recruitment, and yeah, it's just frustrating because we did build the team on defense, and we've finally got our offense a bit better, but defense is just looking all over the place.
Bish, what are your thoughts
on the Broncos?
Yeah, give us.
Yeah, I think it's been covered. Like you said, it's hard, isn't it? It's a tough one. Russ, you know, he went there with the sort of ego. He's got his own office. I think Sean Payton recently said, stop kissing babies. Focus on your NFL. So that's a big one, and it's like you said, there's players coming to an age. I sort of put myself in this bracket. Is when is 1 year extra too much, sort of thing, and it seems like they have a lot of them all at the same time in a sort of in a period where Peyton's come in and trying to stamp his authority on things and change sort of the culture and what's going on. So that takes some time, but it is a fun. Well, I think it will be a fun race for that number one pick, because you've got obviously the Bears in there as well, who actually own Panthers pick as well. So they're looking at 1 and 2 currently, and then you've got the Giants are 1 and 5 as well. So there's a few teams knocking about at that bottom, which could make it interesting.
Yeah, fair enough. Lads, I'm going to open the floor. I've dominated the questions. Have you got any questions to ask? What are you? What's your thoughts on the season? And what else have you got to mention?
I'm just going to throw a little one out there. Dark horse. Don't forget about the Bengals.
Oh, that's what I've got written down, Bish. I've got one dark horse.
Wow. Yeah.
I've got one dark horse, and it's the Bengals. Same.
Yeah. Don't forget about them. It's a tight division now. It seems to be, I'm just looking at it now. Baltimore 4-2, Pittsburgh 3-2, Cleveland 3-2, Cincinnati 3-3. So they notoriously don't start very well. Every year some Burrow's had something up with him. I think it was appendix 1 year, obviously calf this year. So they've generally not started the seasons well while he's been quarterback in his 3 years there. So the 3-3, the one game behind the Ravens, who I'm not that big on, if I'm honest. Watching them at Spurs, I just don't think they've got that cutting edge to them. So I think that division's up for grabs, and they've been there, runners up against the Rams. So they've got the weapons. Yeah, I'm sneaky one on them.
Like it. I'm against you, lads. Here, I'll disagree with you both. I think the Bengals. I don't think it's their year. I think it'd be tough for them to really get up there and get at it. I think that let's just take this year, get things right, keep that core, get the core tied down on the contracts, and attack it next year. It's just tough to get over that bad start. I think.
Yeah.
I know they're 3-3, but. I think I just can't see that momentum fully going to get there. Teams are weeks ahead of them now. I can't see it being their year, lads. They keep picking up these little injuries and going back and forth, and it'd be tough. But if you're right, like you said, how exciting that will be from the bad start they had to come all the way up. My team that we've not mentioned, I don't think anyone's even said them once. And notoriously the team that do bad in the playoffs. I've still got the Cowboys, lads. I think we're all disrespecting the Dallas Cowboys. We've not, me myself, none of us have given him a mention today, and I think they've looked good. They're still trying to work things out. CeeDee Lamb, I don't think's the top. I don't think he's a wide receiver one at that level. I think they have to look at getting some of their other wide receivers going a bit more and sharing it out on that side of the offense. But Micah Parsons is still there. That defense is still very good, and I think it's got to be Dak's year eventually, hasn't it?
Give us your quick thoughts, Tag. I know you've thanks for coming on. I know you've got to shoot off. So quick thoughts on Dallas before you get off.
Dallas, yeah, just not buying it. I just don't think Dak's done it enough in the big games. He's had a lot of chances. Defense as well. I think Diggs' injury is it a mad. I think obviously there was locked in, and the Diggs injury is at him, and they've got Micah there. Obviously, after 4 or 5 weeks, everyone's screaming Micah MVP, but that's gone quiet as well after the Niners game. So yeah, I think Cowboys another one. I think we've just not seen it in the big games from them. So until they do it, then we can we'll buy into them a bit more.
What an end, Bish! Give us the farewell, and we'll end it there. But thanks, lads. That were really good fun.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on, Tag. I think if you fancy it, we'll jump on again and do a fantasy one. We haven't talked about fantasy, so obviously the Punt Fantasy League is in full flow. 6 weeks in, going into the 7th week now, and it looks a stayer. So I think it's something we'll crack on with next year as well. So, but yeah, like, subscribe. We've got best bets coming out tomorrow. We've hopefully we go 9 from 9 and clean up this week and get some momentum going.
See you soon, lads.
Cheers, lads. Thank you.